An appropriate range where we should be. So that all that means is that everything is going according to plan.
According to plan. Having big mice on the rockets in outer space is according to plan.
Okay, so we have the injured party story. There was a recent story about how one of the protesters on J6 was potentially recruited by Ray Epps per a letter the protester, now defendant, wrote from jail. Ray Epps, the famous instigator on that day, is currently still free. Meanwhile, I came across a story titled "Sick Evil People. DC media harass and abuses Texas mother Nicole Reffitt after her husband is sentenced to 7 years for protesting outside the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. A pretty sad story. Some man named Guy Reffitt, who was a part of this group called the 3%ers, took a firearm to Washington, D.C. onto Capitol grounds, which is considered illegal. The FBI sent his son in with wiretap to try to record anything Guy said in the aftermath that could be considered ripe for prosecution. This CNN article reveals the judge's thinking for her justification for this really lengthy sentence for a crime where there is no injured party. And what I mean by that is, let's say you are suddenly carjacked and robbed at a notorious right red arrow. You become the party injured by the robber. In Guy's case, he merely walked onto Capitol grounds brandishing a weapon, did not walk into the Capitol, did not give inciting words to say take over or insurrect or anything to that nature. Allegedly, according to a video recording that Guy made of himself, he did say, "I just went to see Pelosi's head hit every effing stair on the way out," and Republican leader too. The mere statement and his brandishing a weapon led the judge to say this: "Mr. Reffitt's reluctance to admit early that his behavior is illegal is concerning," District Judge Dabney Friedrich said before handing down the 87-month sentence. "And I want to be clear, under no legitimate definition of the term patriot does Mr. Reffitt's behavior on and around January 6th fit the term. It is the antithesis of the word." And so right there you see the judge's bias. She continues, "The officers at the Capitol are the patriots, as well as those who fought and even died to protect our democracy or rule of law. Those in a mob are not. Not only are they not patriots, they are a direct threat to our democracy and will be punished as such." So here she uses the term mob, which is a word being applied to an entire group of individuals, not all of whom were behaving as a mob. You know, interestingly, if you search on YouTube, Jan 6 protesters allowed in, you don't actually get any relevant result surfaced. It seems all the results have verified marks, which means they're deliberately curated by YouTube. Very interesting. I guess, and also for the record, apparently Rumble is the only platform that has an algorithm able to surface the relevant term. BitChute and Odyssey failed. So yeah, mobs usually aren't allowed in. Not if they're actually mobs, you know, kind that carry pitchforks and torches, that sort of thing. By the way, this judge was appointed by Donald Trump. He's a longtime DC critter, also serving under George Bush and Barack Obama as a member of the United States Sentencing Commission. Oh yeah, let me share with you this exchange. This is during the sentencing. Reffitt was adamant in earlier hearings about being the first January 6th defendant to take his case to trial, but on Monday, in plea for leniency in advance of his sentencing, he said that he was an effing idiot who was parroting founding father and stupid S like that around January 6th, and that he doubled down on that rhetoric to garner money for his family during the course of his legal battle. So then she replies to him, "It seems you wanted to be the big guy, the important guy, the first guy to go to trial, the first guy up there to revel in the press," Friedrich said to Reffitt. "You wanted to be an important person who makes a difference, and yet you're going about it in all the wrong ways." So here you see that psychological attack on Guy, even playing a pun on his name, where she says you wanted to be the big guy, the important guy, the first guy. And so in this like inferior dominant exchange, you wonder if there's a bit of projection in this situation. I can't say that for sure there is with the judge, but I just wonder. But is this emotional grandstanding? This, you wanted to be this, but you're really wrong. Look what you're trying to do. Is that type of tactic? In my view, that's not befitting of a judge's demeanor. These individuals literally have the defendant's lives in their hand, in a sense. And so every remark and conclusion should be spoken in a manner that preserves the accused's dignity and captures the solemnity of the situation. I think many judges, unfortunately, are quite like this one with the rhetoric. At the least, it just represents a lack of perspective, and at the very worst, represents a shard, a mere piece of evil heart potential that exists within the possibilities of humanity. Reffitt's son, Jackson, who testified against his father during the trial, was not in the courtroom. In a statement read aloud by prosecutors, Jackson said that his father, quote, slowly lost himself over the last 5 years, but that, quote, whatever you view him as a father, a family member, or a friend, using these labels to justify anything he has done is completely wrong. Reffitt's wife and 2 daughters were in the courtroom when his sentence was handed down. Reffitt's younger daughter, Peyton, told the judge that her father is, quote, not a threat to my family, and that her family has, quote, turned a blind eye to his mental health issues. So again, if you brandish a weapon on a Capitol, now whether this weapon was concealed or not, I'm not sure, and if you express political opinions concerning some of the leaders, this amounts to having, quote, mental health issues, end quote. Meanwhile, on Twitter, we have this poster tweeting, breaking, Capitol insurrectionist Guy Reffitt reportedly cried during his trial before being sentenced to more than 7 years in prison. Too effing bad. To which someone replied with a meme. It was fuck around times and it was find out times. Great meme, isn't it? Winky eye. So viewer, I hope you can just sort of see the spirit of just these posts here, what this actually represents in like a symbolic sense. This is where we're at. No injured party. He simply walked on a Capitol. He never entered the building. Life ruined. 87 months. Too effing bad. I do believe that people such as whoever this is can theoretically be coached into a more open-minded and nuanced way of looking at legal situations, especially when involving individuals who are on opposite side politically speaking. But this is only theoretical. Practically, I would say so many of these people who are our brethren, who are our fellow Americans, are basically a lost cause. Meanwhile, Ray Epps, who recruits people, is still free. No, life's not fair. No, the world's not fair. But I think if the depredations continue, if this man literally sits in prison for 7 years for literally committing a technical violation, reserving a right protected by the US Constitution, I'll have to say the situation likely is every man for himself, which simply means the toppling of corruption and the creation of a demi-utopia will occur in direct proportion to each individual effort showing up to the world the best way a person can show up as. I believe this is a sufficient default position, regardless of if they're patriots in the wings or not, making war with a totalitarian deep state. As individuals, we have to assume by default that there is no help. Also recognizing that the battle has potential hierarchies of other conflict, turf war, conflict within military factions, down to domestic conflicts within homes. My video upload period, I will shift to a lower, I am in an immediate busy period where I do not have as much time to do video uploads as I would like, but this story upset me to such a degree, unnerved me to such a degree, I decided that it needed to go up on at least my personal video record, a ping of one consciousness, considering a very sickening observation out to a spectrum of other consciousness who are viewing this. The systems of the world are completely ruthless. The people are endlessly callous and without sympathy in their heartlessness and competition. But the infinite 0-point potential of endless heart, endless mind, and endless courage exists within each of us. We have to light the flame within ourselves, not assuming larger allies have our backs. That's how we succeed, through the fire.
Tip number 1, set goals. Take the time to set realistic goals and expectations. This is a simple one that we see in our day-to-day lives. We all have to start from somewhere. Think to yourself what you want to accomplish.
Thousands of government-sponsored experiments did take place at hospitals, universities, and military bases around our nation. The goal was to understand the effects of radiation exposure on the human body.
Tip number 2, remain resilient. For many of us, selection can be considered one of the most challenging times we will experience in our lives, both physically and mentally. It is important that you keep a level head and try to avoid making rash decisions. Use your skills and strengths to overcome obstacles and recover from challenges. By design, you will fail at some point during selection. Do not allow that one failure to become many failures by getting down on yourself.
We must be united so that we can save this country, the country that we love, and have a rebirth of American liberty and prosperity.